So we do hear in the news where kids, especially of African descent, do call the cops on their parents for disciplining them or for some disciplinary actions.
Mhm.
Parents who had maybe African upbringing, how difficult is it for such parents to raise their kids in diaspora, especially where maybe if you are not careful and you want to over discipline your kid, they may call the cops on you and you may even go to jail, or the kids will be taken away from you or custody will be given to someone else. How difficult is it for parents of African descent or African background or upbringing to raise their kids in diaspora?
Okay, so thank you for having me once again. Most times, what we hear is the kids calling the cops on their parents. Okay, we don't really hear of what really led to the kids calling the cops.
Mm,
Most African parents jump up and always say that, oh, my kids called the cops on me.
I know,
For
right?
what specific reason did your kids call the cops on you? And I keep repeating that this is a country of laws, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We are not back. Let me just use Ghana as a case study. So we are not back in Ghana where it is very extremely difficult to hear that police will respond or they'll show up to your house because your kids called the cops that you disciplined them.
Mm-hmm.
It's either never heard of, non-existence, or we don't, such things don't exist. And
Yeah.
even if they do exist, is in a very minimal level. Okay. So what led to the kids calling the cops on the parents? Maybe you over disciplined them.
Mm-hmm.
That caused an injury because guess what? If the cops show up at your doorstep, they
Mm-hmm.
deal with evidence. So
Yeah.
let's say your kid called a cop that you beat them or you bruised them or whatever the case may be, and they show up. What evidence is there to show that you beat your kids and whatever happened? Okay, so maybe they sustained injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Once the cops show up and there are clear evidence that you beat your kid and they sustain injuries,
Mm-hmm.
definitely that is against the law. They will take you into custody,
Mm-hmm.
book you in, and you may spend a day or two at the jail. So it is extremely difficult for immigrants, let me put it in general terms, for most immigrants to raise their kids in abroad. In this case, let's just say the United States of America, okay? Because most of us are still conditioned
Mm-hmm.
with the ideas that we are still raising these kids back in Ghana, which is not the case.
Yeah, but growing up, maybe if you did something wrong, Adon, your parents call you, and you know very well that you may be receiving some 4 lashes,
Thank you.
6 lashes, and the rest. And so, is it a case that parents are not supposed to lash or what we say cane their wards in diaspora, or which form of discipline can, and what's the how do you call it, the line, which kind of discipline can they met out to their kids, which kind of discipline is when you are crossing the line
Okay,
of
so
disciplining your kids? Yeah, if you can help us understand that also.
a lot of the time people keep blaming the institutions like the government, the police,
Mm-hmm.
that they are overstepping their boundaries. But no, the government is not in your house, the police is not in your house. The police do not train your kids. The government do not train your kids. However, there are rules, there are laws that protect kids. There are laws that protect the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have to live within the confine of these laws.
Mm-hmm.
You are allowed to spank your kids. However, I mean, when you are angry, we all know that when you are overtaken by anger and you start spanking these kids, you may go overboard.
Okay.
And for you going overboard, you may bruise these kids, you may cause injury to the kids. And
Mm.
definitely that is against the law. You are allowed. You can spank your kid. Trust me. Caucasians do spank their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Other races do spank their kids. African Americans do spank their kids. So why can't the immigrant of
Mm-hmm.
African descent? Why can't the African, the Ghanaian living in America? Why can we not spank our kids? Personally, I believe these are not effective ways to discipline a child. Using spanks, like trying to spank your kids, me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I believe they are not an effective way of trying to discipline your children. However, we
Mm-hmm.
should focus on teaching,
Mm-hmm.
guiding,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
using the full scale of punishment. The
Or inflicting
underlying,
physical harm on the kid. But
yes.
I watched a video where the mother asked the little girl to do the dishes, wash the plates. Then
Mhm.
she started fuming, crying, and the next thing I heard was, "I'll call the cops on you. I'll call the police on you."
So
Because the mother asked her to wash the dishes. So are these kids also not abusing the fact that maybe when you call 911, they'll come to your rescue? Are they not abusing that
no,
to also avoid being brought up in the right way? Because the Bible also said that train up your child the way
they
they should
should
go,
go.
so that
And
when
when
they
they
grow,
grow, they will not depart from it.
yeah, maybe we all know some were excesses. We all know how, even back in our secondary schools, how some level of discipline shaped us not to go overboard because we are young adolescents and we could go overboard. But
So,
knowing very well that someone out there may punish you if you
mhm,
overdo it, you are
mhm.
restrained. Are these kids not taking these things for granted and abusing some of these opportunities?
Well, definitely, kids are kids, children are children. So
Mm,
once it rings in their ear that, oh, if your parents touch you, you can call 911 and 911 will come to your aid.
mm,
Of course, they will try to abuse that privilege. Okay.
mm.
Now, if I ask my kid to wash a plate and he or she refuses and tells me that you're going to call the cops or 911 on me, go ahead and call 911.
Mm,
You have to use communication skills. This is where effective communication, talking to the kid, has to come in. Well,
okay.
go ahead and call 911. And guess what? When you call them and they show up, they are going to take you away.
Mm,
Okay? Either they take you away or they take me away. Now, once I'm gone and you are gone, who is now going to take care of you? Now, okay, generally speaking, if my kids should call the cops and they show up and the cops ask the reason why did you call the cops, I asked you to wash dishes, that's why you call the cops. Really? That sounds ridiculous.
mm-hmm,
They'll walk away and even warn you not to abuse the system of calling the cops when it is not necessary.
mm,
So we have to get into the habit of using, uh, 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 teaching, guiding, and not necessarily punishment. You have to talk to these kids. You know, trying to raise kids all over the world is extremely difficult. These are young kids. These are, kids that will grow into adulthood. So it is extremely difficult trying to raise these kids,
mm,
and we just have to try our possible best to learn the rudiments of effective training or raising, how to raise these kids to become good and great young adults in our communities.
mm. But which other ways do you think that, aside maybe the temptation of inflicting physical harm, which other forms of punishment do you think are appropriate for
So
African parents or parents in diaspora in general,
in
raising
in
up their
in general, I would say kids from, like, let's say 1 to 3,
mm,
you should use positive reinforcements,
mm,
like rewarding good habits. Okay,
mm,
you reward good habits. You find solution based to their shortcomings. So let's say if he or she doesn't like to share toys with other children or their other siblings, take
mm,
the toy away from them.
mm.
Okay, if you learn to share toys, then I'll bring the toy back.
Okay.
Okay, time out. take them and go keep them somewhere where they don't have access to nothing. Okay, you go
Mm-hmm.
to timeout, and basically you are there for like 30 minutes to 1 hour, where you will not have access to coming to the family room, where everybody is bubbly, joking, and playing and all that. So they are missing out on playtime. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, your consistent talking and using this positive reinforcement habits could easily help train and shape their behaviors.
Okay. So getting like understanding you right, it means that you can do all other forms of punishment or things that would deprive them of some happiness in the short or medium
Exactly.
term.
Yes.
But you
And
should be careful not to inflict physical
not at all. And
harm
even
or scratch or
studies,
mm,
yes, studies have shown that
mm,
physical punishment is
mm-hmm,
not an effective way of disciplining children. Okay,
mm,
they may get used to the spanking. Then what next?
yeah, anyway.
Once they get used to the spanking, then what next? Because he or she will be conditioned that, oh, if I do this thing, the next thing is you're going to beat me.
Mm,
Okay. But if you do something wrong and I tell you that there is something you need, maybe you need a particular toy, and you are doing something wrong, and I tell you, hey, if you continue doing it, I will not buy you this thing, or if you continue doing it, I'll take away this from you. They
mm-hmm,
will come to the realization that if I continue doing this thing, I will not get whatever I want or what I asked for, or things that belong to me will be taken away from me.
won't the African parents say that that is over pampering, always like now you are bribing your child that I'll not buy you this, I'll not buy you that. Is it
I
not
don't I don't
over
believe it's
pampering?
I don't believe it's bribing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like most of us when we're in school. Definitely, if you performed exceptionally well in class, your
Mm,
parents rewarded you with,
yeah.
exactly. So I don't believe it's over pampering, or, you
Mm,
know, it's just a positive way of trying to discipline your children.
mm,
Okay. And let's be honest to ourselves, kids from their younger self, they
mm-hmm,
are so eager to learn. Like my kids,
mm-hmm,
whenever I pull my car out to wash, they want to help me wash the car.
mm-hmm,
Do you get it? So at that young age, he or she wants to help you wash the car.
mm,
Why do you want to prevent he or she from helping you?
mm,
Maybe they're going to waste your time. No,
mm,
allow them. If you are washing dishes, they will come. They want to help you do it. Allow
mm,
them to do it. So you realize that over time, they get used to some of these things. Okay, helping you in the kitchen, helping you in the garage, helping you mow the yard and stuff like that. Over time, they'll get used to it. When they wake up in the morning, you go to their room and you tell them, hey, put your room in order,
mm,
arrange your beds, fold your bed sheets or whatever, keep your rooms neat. They get used to it. Over time, I take my kids up to the game room. If the place is messy, I'm not going to do it. No, they will do it.
mm,
And kids who pass funny comments like, maybe it's too much work for me to do. I say, I didn't create the mess. You created the mess. So go ahead
mm,
and do it. Okay. If you finish doing it, I'll give you ice cream. Or they want snacks. You can't have snacks until you finish cleaning your room. Stuff like that will
mm.
easily help in disciplining our kids rather than using, physical punishment. Physical punishment for me is a no-no.
All right.
I know to some people it may sound ridiculous, but I don't think physical punishment helps get
Mm,
the job done.
mm. Yeah, because sometimes I wonder what would push a kid to actually pick the phone to call the police.
Because they've been trained in school, and the reason why they tell them is that yes, there are some parents who go overboard. There are some parents who abuse their kids.
Mm,
So if man, trust me, when you go, unless you've not been to some of these institutions, when you go to like some of these institutions who come in to help, like the child protective services,
mhm,
places that come in, some of these institutions, when you go there, you understand some of the abuse that some of these kids go through.
mm,
And though I don't advise like child protective services taking away kids entirely.
mm,
Sometimes when the abuse is too much, they have to find a place for the kids.
mm,
So also parents have to have it at the back of their minds that
mm,
though it is extremely difficult in raising these kids, you have
mm,
to be extremely patient.
mhm,
You have to be patient,
mm.
you know. So
Because anyway, I don't know if you watch this recent movie, Adolescence. Now, kids, try and watch it if you've not. I'm not promoting the movie, all right, but a lot of lessons to be learned from me. You could keep your eye on your kids, but the things they do on their phones, social media, and the kind of friends they have, school, they could be
yeah,
influenced into doing things crazy.
yes,
And maybe even the language they speak in coded languages that even if you're even monitoring
you
their
can't
social
understand.
handles, you don't even understand what they are talking
Yeah.
about using
So that is where you
colors
have
and
to set
codes.
boundaries. That some of these parents, you put TVs in the kids' room, you put
Mm,
fridge in the kids' room, you
mm,
give them access to their phones and their tablets and all that. No.
mm,
What is the bedroom meant for? It's meant for sleeping, not for learning.
mm,
I have an office. Keep their tablets or their laptops in the office
mm,
and take away their phones from them. You
mm.
can go to the extreme of some people have the options where they can disconnect their kids' internet when it's time to sleep. Go
Okay.
ahead and do those things.
Mm,
Disconnect their internet from their phones and from
mm,
their tablets and all that. And when is it age appropriate to give phones to kids? All
mm,
these things we have to learn. All these things,
mm.
you know.
All right. I believe we've learned so much. I know it's a complex discipline, raising kids, especially in diaspora, more especially having the background of African upbringing, parents that were disciplined and the rest may also want to ensure that the kids follow a certain rudiment or upbringing so that they will be properly mannered and the rest. But we must all be careful so we do not maybe flout the laws of the country that you find
Exactly.
yourself in. It's very, very important. And
Yes.
you should also raise your kids in ways that you become best friends, not seen as
Exactly.
just an authority that daddy is coming and
They
everybody
are all scared. They are all running.
everybody's running. Those are maybe people will tell you when they see they hear their father's car, the engine.
Honking.
All right. So thanks so much for sharing this again. I believe we'd have a lot to talk about, and we encourage all our viewers and followers to keep subscribing and keep following. Bring your questions, and we'll definitely
Yeah,
answer that.
maybe next time we can also chip in why a lot of Africans in the diaspora think that
Mm.
taking their kids back home is a
Yeah,
better option.
that's one thing that we need to
Yeah,
also discuss. It's very, very important. All right. All right, Senor, it's been a pleasure once again. Thanks so much for sharing all this information. It's very, very useful. Thank you.
welcome. And thank you for having me once again.
All right, thank you.
All right.